first look for the new wildrift patch 4.2b, and there are some interesting changes. I've maybe read a little bit already, so I'm gonna give you guys my input. I'm gonna tell you guys what I think about the changes and how it's gonna affect the meta. We're obviously also gonna make a tier list once this patch is coming out. For you guys wondering when this is coming out, usually it's Thursday, so it's probably gonna be 29. It is probably gonna come out, and then we're gonna play the patch a few days, and then we're gonna make a tier list. So if you guys don't want to miss it out, make sure to subscribe, and if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, and let's get started. We have some buffs, we have some nerfs, and we have some adjustments. So for the first change, we have Aatrox getting buffed. They are buffing the attack damage bonus he's getting on his ultimate by 10%. And I'm not sure why they're buffing Aatrox. I think he's already in a very strong position. I've considered him like broken tier in Baron lane and in the jungle. Some people say he's a little bit weaker and not broken anymore, but I think he's in a position where he's extremely strong and he doesn't need any buffs, so this seems unnecessary to me, and he's just gonna do way more damage than beforehand. Next one, Camille is getting a buff. They are buffing Camille jungle, so this is looking pretty damn sexy to me. They are buffing the damage onto monsters by 30%. This is gonna make her jungle clear way better, and also her ability to secure objectives, like the dragon or the Rift Herald. Pretty nice change. It's gonna make her jungle clear way better, and it's gonna make her slow early jungle clear better in general, because her early jungle clear is super bad, and that's one of the reasons that she isn't that strong anymore, because she's pretty slow paced in the early game. Next one, what they are doing is they're adjusting, or they're buffing Fiora's first ability. So they're lowering the base cooldown, and they're compensating by changing the cooldown reduction. Oh, basically, if you miss the first ability, the cooldown is 100% lower, but even if you let's see, 7, even if you hit the first ability, the cooldown is slightly lower. So let's say at end level, right, you would have 4.8 cooldown when you're hitting someone, and now it's 3 seconds. So this is the changes, or these are the changes. So in general, this is a nice buff for Fiora. If you're missing, nice, you have even less cooldown, but even if you're hitting, you have less cooldown now. So nice change for Fiora, making her stronger. I had her in S tier because I felt like she's pretty damn hard to play, and I think her win rate is probably very low across all ranks. We can check the Chinese website, but the Chinese website is like only Diamond Plus. But I think below Diamond, like Diamond and below Diamond, Fiora's win rate must be very bad, because she's very hard to play. So the average player is probably inting on this champion, and she's also hard to master in a team fight. So I can see why they're buffing her, but I think for Fiora Pro, they are gonna love those changes. Next one is gonna be a Lilia buff. They are increasing the attack damage by 4, so they are making her early jungle clear a little bit better, because her auto attacks are gonna do more damage, and they are also gonna buff her armor, making her a little bit more tanky in the early game. So a nice change, but nothing too major. I think it really doesn't matter too much. +3 is a 10% armor increase, and then for attack damage doesn't really matter for Lilia. It's only for the auto attacks in the early game, so her jungle clear is slightly stronger, but it really doesn't matter. Now for Nunu, they are changing the third ability. Snowball Barrage. Okay, I can't even speak. Barrage base damage per snowball is getting increased by 2 at every rank. I mean, it's nice to have damage buff, but it really doesn't matter, because Nunu is maxing the first ability and the second ability, and third ability is mainly for the crowd control for the root or stun. And then they are reducing the cooldown of his ultimate by 5 seconds at every rank. It's nice to have, but I think these changes for Nunu really don't matter. Like, it's not gonna affect him at all. It's a slight buff. No one will notice this. Seriously. Next one for Ziggs. They are increasing the base damage of his passive by 10. they're reducing the cooldown of his second ability in the early game by 3 at level 1, and then later 2, 1, and then same. So making his mobility in the early game slightly better. And then for the third ability, the movement speed reduction duration is getting increased. I think these are nice changes for Ziggs. But I don't think it's nothing too major, because they're not buffing the base damage of the first ability or of the ultimate, or they're buffing the AP ratios of Ziggs. So it's nice to have utility changes for second and third ability, a slight damage buff on the passive, but right now in my opinion he's like S tier, and I don't think this is gonna change him into S plus tier. I think he's a super solid utility based poke champion, but that's about it. Now guys, let's move on to, what's your guys' opinion about the champion buffs? Write it down below in the comments, and let's move on to champion nerfs. So for champion nerfs, we have Rammus. Rammus passive, movement speed increased during Powerball, is getting rolling. Armadillo, movement speed increased during Powerball, is getting reduced. Oh. So they are nerfing his rotation power or his ganking power in the in total, like him being able to gank left and right with the first ability. They're nerfing that. Interesting. And they're also nerfing the base damage of the first ability by 30 in the early game, not 30 at every rank. Interesting. They're making Rammus early game power way weaker with this. I mean, a movement speed reduction by 36. So when he's coming with a power ball, he's going to be way slower than beforehand. So it's easier to avoid or dodge his ganks. And he also travels across the map slower. So this is definitely going to nerf his early game by a lot. And also his total, like, ganking power. Interesting nerf. I can see it, because Rammus is an insane counter into physical damage team compositions, and if you play Rammus into the right team comp, you almost are guaranteed to win. Like, whenever I pick Rammus, I'm always winning, because I only pick Rammus against physical damage team compositions. I don't pick him when I have a lot of AP damage, and therefore I'm always winning the games on Rammus. I had like a 8 win streak on Rammus, and I don't even play this champion. So Rammus is an insane counter, and I can see why Rammus win rate is very high, because a lot of people are only playing this champion into the right team comp. Hopefully you're doing this. So what's your guys' opinion about the Rammus changes? Do you think it's going to affect his early game a lot? Do you think he's still going to be strong? Let's move on to Swain. I put Swain S+, by the way, in my mid lane. What they're doing is, Swain's base armor per level is getting reduced by 0.5. So he will have way less armor in total. Okay, what they say with way less, but it's a 10% armor nerf. And then first ability, what are they doing? The base damage of the first ability is getting nerfed, and the AP ratio is getting nerfed. Oh, the first bolt does the same damage? Wait, defense damage of each bolt after the first one. So you have like the initial bolt damage, and then you have all the other, because you're like using 5 bolts at the same time, if I'm not wrong. But that's a big nerf. Like, if you're hitting someone with a max close range first ability, the damage nerf is huge. They're nerfing the base damage and the AP ratio. This is a big first ability damage nerf, a big damage nerf. And now for the ultimate healing, they're slightly decreasing the base healing in the mid and late game, and also the AP ratio of the healing. Actually, they're gutting Swain, by the way. They're gutting Swain, and I can see why. Random, if you're watching this, it's your fault, Random, for spamming Swain. You disgusting pick. It's your fault, Random. Top 1 player in the server is abusing Swain. That's why you're nerfing it. They saw it. They stalked your profile. And they didn't, but it's your fault. So what do you guys think about the Swain nerf? I think it's a big nerf. Base armor per level nerf, first ability damage nerf, and ultimate. Like I taught you, when they're increasing the base damage and the ratios, that's always a big buff. But if they're nerfing the base damage and the AP ratios, that's a big nerf. And 8 to 5%, that's almost a 50% AP ratio nerf, by the way. And then 5 base damage nerf as well. In the early game, you will notice this from 15 to 10. Like later on, 45 to 40, it's just a -5 difference. But 15 to 10 in the early game is a big damage difference, by the way. And then also the ultimate is getting nerfed. That's a huge Swain nerf. Like, I'm surprised. That means Swain's win rate must have been very, very high, even though he's a new champion. This was only the first step. There are still 2 more taps, by the way. So, did I miss something? This must be nerf, right? Adjustment? Nerf? No, this is under adjustments. Okay. Let's move on to system item buffs. So, Death Dance. The healing you're getting is getting increased by 2%. I mean, it's pretty nice to have. So it's gonna make Bruiser slightly stronger. Then Randuin's Omen is getting a buff. They're increasing the gold by 100. They are giving the item 5 more armor. And also the determination gain from melee damage +4. And from a ranged champion +4. So therefore you're gonna get... You can easier get more healing now, because the more determination you're farming up, the more healing you're gonna get. Every time you're getting critted, you're farming determination, and then after a while you're getting healing for it. So Randuin's Omen slightly better, but honestly I like the old Randuin's Omen way more, because you had attack speed reduction and you had crit damage reduction. This was so good. I used to run Randuin's Omen all the time, but I wouldn't buy it now. I would rather get Frozen Heart for attack speed reduction and ability haste, or I would just get Thornmail. Because you always can get Twin Guard, so you're getting Thornmail plus Twin Guard. Or you're getting Deadman's Plate a lot of times. I would run those items over Randuin's Omen. I think the old Randuin's is just way better. So for Serpent's Fang armor penetration is getting increased by 3. This is a nice to have buff, especially since a lot of champions have a lot of shielding right now in the meta. So Serpent's Fang is going to be a very important item in this meta, and they're buffing it, so pretty nice for lethality junglers. Or like some champions like Varus who are running lethality as well. Then they are increasing the gold cost of Yumu's by 100, but they're giving 5 attack damage more. So this is a nice buff, because I mean for 100 gold you're getting 5 more attack damage. We take it. But the power spike is gonna be slightly delayed. I mean, that's what we can say. So what's your guys' opinion about the system item buffs? And now let's move on to a big nerf, and I'm gonna explain it to you guys because Stuart also wrote to me, and I think he was kind of confused about how this is gonna change, because yeah, it is kind of big buff, but only for certain champions, by the way. So Hullbreaker, what they do is the armor bonus for melee champions is getting decreased, especially in, like, this is, if you see 10 to 50, this means from level 1 to level 15, right? So if you buy Hullbreaker early on, there are only a few champions that are doing this. A Garen is rushing sometimes Hullbreaker first item, or a Sion is rushing Hullbreaker first item. These 2 champions in particular are getting nerfed by this, because most split pushers, they don't have to get Hullbreaker early on. They get Hullbreaker 3rd position or 4th position. That means they're getting it when they're like level 8 or level 10. And if you're getting the item later on, you will not notice these changes. If you are getting the item very early on, you will notice these changes immediately, because as you guys can see, every resistance bony you would get is getting nerfed. They are nerfing the minion resistance, they are nerfing the armor and magic resistance bonus that you would get if you're alone. Because Hullbreaker, how does the Hullbreaker work? Hullbreaker, if you are alone split pushing, you're getting resistance. The minions are getting resistance, cannon minions, super minions. They're not nerfing the turret damage though, so that's nice to have, I guess. But yeah, that's about it. And what they did is they're nerfing the base resistance for yourself and for the minions. And this only affects the split pushers that are getting it first item the most. And typically it's gonna be Garen that's rushing a Hullbreaker, or it's gonna be Sign that's rushing Hullbreaker, and maybe sometimes there are like, who else is rushing Hullbreaker? Maybe Set, sometimes Set are rushing Hullbreaker, but most other split pushers, Fiora, Jax, Camille, they are not getting Hullbreaker first item, not second item. They're getting Divine Sandra, they're getting Blade of the Rune King, for example. And then third or fourth item, they're getting Hullbreaker. So if you're getting it at that point, you will not notice the effect of the nerfs as much, but for champions like Sion and Garen, this is a big nerf, because they can just rush Hullbreaker, and they're just super tanky and unkillable. Yeah, the reason I like this change, because fuck Garen players. If you guys agree with this, write it down below in the comments, because fuck Garen players for abusing Hullbreaker, becoming way too tanky, and doing way too much damage. So I can, I mean, as you guys can see in the late game, the changes are not relevant. Oh, minus the magic resistance here. Oh, this is for ranged champions. Magic resistance bonus for ranged champions, way weaker, but for melee champions, armor bonus stays the same, but they're nerfing the magic. Oh, this is gonna help Akali Gwen out a lot. Because Akali Gwen are champions that can't buy Hullbreaker, and it's gonna make it easier for them to fight Hullbreaker champions, because they have less magic resistance now in the late game. And also, it's gonna make it easier for them to clear the minion wave. Because the minion wave will also have less magic resistance now. So in a Hullbreaker versus Hullbreaker split push matchup, it doesn't really matter too much, but against a Hullbreaker versus magic damage champion, Akali, Gwen, who else is in barrel lane, maybe Gragas, it's gonna help them to do more damage against Hullbreaker champions, and it's also gonna help them to clear the wave easier, because it's very hard for Akali, Gwen to clear the minion wave against a split pushing champion with Hullbreaker. So that's how Hullbreaker works right now. Let's move on to adjustments. So for the passive, they're nerfing the slow. They're nerfing the slow at every rank, okay. They are increasing the cooldown of her second ability, but they're buffing the attack damage bonus. This is gonna be a buff for Ashe ADC, because she's gonna do more damage, but it's gonna be a nerf for Ashe support, because she relies on the utility. She's more like a utility champion. Let's move on to other changes. So for Draven, they are nerfing his early game base attack damage, but they are buffing his base attack damage per level. So basically, they are nerfing his early game power, but they are buffing his late game with it. But the 4 attack damage nerf, you will notice this at level 1. So at level 1, Draven is not going to be insanely strong as before. So his early game first blood cheesing is going to be weaker. But 0.5 times 15, I mean, he's not going to be that bad. He's still going to do decent. I mean, to be fair, it's a slight buff in the late game, but Draven is all about the early game. I feel like it's more like a nerf, honestly. He will have slightly more attack damage at level 15, right? But Draven is a champion that's all about snowballing. So it is, and in fact it is a nerf. Like, yeah, they make his early game weaker and his late game stronger, but Draven is all about snowballing in the early game. So de facto it is a nerf. Now for Fizz, they are nerfing the passive damage onto monsters, making his jungle clear weaker, but they're buffing the ability power ratio on the third ability, which is his main damage, making Fizz mid lane better, and slightly nerfing the Fizz early game jungle clear speed, but he's still gonna do more damage. So overall, Fizz mid lane up, Fizz jungle slightly down. I mean, it depends, like you will do more damage, but a little bit weaker jungle clear speed, so give or take it. But yeah, Fizz mid definitely a buff. Now for Olaf. Olaf Vicious Strike Shield gained is getting buffed base damage wise, but He's getting less shielding when he's low life. From 17% missing health to 13%. And Ragnarok initial duration is getting increased by 4. Nice, I like this. I like this Ragnarok in duration change because he struggles against range champions right now because he can't continue to proc the duration buff or the duration increase. I like this change. Olaf has been struggling against range champions in comparison to beforehand. Like beforehand, yeah, but after the changes they did to Ragnarok, he sucks against range champions. Especially if they have crowd control. You just run out of your ultimate and you can't keep it up. So the active attack boost, they are nerfing. Oh no. Oh no. They're nerfing the base damage he's getting and the attack damage percent he's getting. Oh no, they're nerfing his damage. So early game, more shielding. I think it's a nerf, by the way. Wait, yeah, in the early game he will have more shielding, but late game he's gonna get less shielding. He gets a little bit more utility by having the ultimate being a minimum of 4 seconds already, but they're nerfing his damage output. Oh, tragic, Olaf. Tragic. I'm not sure what to think about it. I think it's a nerf in total. I mean, yeah, his early game is gonna be slightly better because of the base changes. And I mean, the thing is you get plus 20 more shield, right? But the 4% is gonna be a lot in the late game. So his late game shielding is gonna be way less than beforehand. And the attack damage he's getting from the ultimate is in the late game also way less. Okay, next one, Tristana. Base HP getting nerfed by 40. That's big numbers, by the way. Attack speed she's getting from the first ability is getting increased in the later stages, and the cooldown of the second ability is gonna get increased in the early game and in the late game less. So what they're doing is they're making Tristana's early game weaker, but they're compensating by making her late game stronger. So she's gonna be more like a hit or miss. Because right now she's still really decent in the early game and extremely strong in the late game. Now they're making the late game even stronger, but punish her by having a weaker early game. I think it's fine. Next one is going to be Vayne. Vayne, 30 base HP nerf, 4 armor nerf, and attack damage increase on the third. Dude, attack damage increase on the third, but it doesn't matter. But they're gutting her early game. 30, yeah, they're punishing her early game because she's broken at 3 items. I like the changes for Vayne. I like the changes for Tristana. I don't like the Olaf changes. I like the Fizz changes. I don't mind the Draven changes because fuck Draven players. But this is gonna hurt him. Now Hullbreaker changes, I like that. It doesn't really affect. Honestly. Nah! If I play Camille against Akali, I'm gonna get cancer now. Ay. As a split push player, I don't like it, but I do appreciate that Garen players are gonna suck more now. Item changes here doesn't really matter. Buffs, Aatrox doesn't make sense. I like the Camille buff. Fiora buff is good. Lydia buff doesn't matter. Nunu buff doesn't matter. Ziggs doesn't matter. Ramos, I guess that's nice to have. And Swain, I think I'm happy. I mean, I don't see that many good Swain players, but I'm still happy because if random gets Swain, suck medic random. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this pet review. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Write down below your opinion about the changes, Hullbreaker, buffs, nerfs, etc. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye. Easy content, right? Easy content.